Hello again. I dare say that everybody watching this will be aware that television series in Britain show a world in which black people are, to say the least of it, more common than is actually the case in the real world. Only about 4% of people in Britain are black, according to the 2021 census, but watching any drama on television would suggest that their prevalence in the population is at least 10 times as high as that. The reason for this is very simple, if more than a little disturbing. It is that the cultural landscape of Britain has come to resemble that of Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia in the 1930s. In both those nations, art for the sake of it was thought to be a waste of time, a pointless middle class luxury. Books, films, plays, music, and painting, which were just intended to amuse or entertain, were strongly discouraged. Instead, all cultural endeavours were to be harnessed by the state as a means to indoctrinate people and teach them the correct way to think and behave. We see this in cinema of the period, Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin and Alexander Nevsky in Russia, for instance, and in Germany films such as Due Sus and Uncle Kruger. Audiences in the Soviet Union were taught to understand the class struggle, and Germans were encouraged to view Jews as a menace to their country. Novels and paintings were also expected to inculcate the right political and social perspective. This is precisely what we are now seeing. Novelists, film producers, and television directors who feel that mere entertainment is not enough and that art should have a political message for the audience. Let me give an example of what I am talking about. One of my great interests is science fiction. I've written a couple of books on the subject, including the only comprehensive history of the steampunk and dieselpunk genres, tracing the history of these from Jules Verne onward. The real world of Victorian steampunk is accepted as something of a definitive work in this area. I keep up to date with modern developments in science fiction, and it is from this field of fiction that I want to give an example. In 2014, a book called The Girl with All the Gifts was published. It's a post apocalyptic novel with characters very much like zombies that have been taken over by a fungus. I dare say that some viewers would have seen television series with the same idea. It's set in Britain, and the heroine is a young girl called Melanie. In the book, she is specifically described as being white. When a film was made of the novel a couple of years later, a girl of African heritage was chosen to play the leading role. The following year, the author released a sequel. This book, yeah, The Boy on the Bridge. The author had clearly got the message from the way that the first novel was adapted for the cinema, because in this book, all the boxes are ticked so neatly that any film version won't need to alter a thing. 12 characters are travelling across the bleak landscape of the future Britain in a huge armoured laboratory. The central character is a Pakistani woman called Samrina Khan. The other leading character, an autistic boy. There is also an African doctor who just happens to be a gay man. Fortunately for him, another of the 12 people is also a gay man, and so they're able to consummate their love for each other. The villain is the highest ranking surviving officer of the British Army, a brigadier who happens to be a woman. And so it continues. There can be no doubt at all that this particular work of modern fiction has been entirely shaped by political expediency. That is to say, that the author knows what is expected of him and is happy to craft his work accordingly. Publishers are also working to the same agenda. In the field of science fiction, female authors, especially those with Chinese or African sounding names, are the hot property at the moment. Go to Foyles in London and look through the science fiction section, you'll soon see what I mean. This book has been constructed to follow an ideology rather than being driven entirely by artistic considerations or the creative urge of the author. The most obvious manifestation of this phenomenon is, of course, to be seen in television drama. There is no field of artistic endeavour which is free of this need to follow political orthodoxy in the world which is portrayed.